Hello, welcome back to the Brussels Signal studio in the heart of the EU quarter here in the EU capital. My name is Justin Stairs, and today we have Maximillian Krah with us. Thank you for coming in, Mr. Krah. Mr. Krah is a representative of the AfD party, the Alternative for Deutschland party, the Alternative for Germany party, and he is head of the list for next year's European elections, which means, as I've just discovered, that he is almost certain to be elected. He is from Dresden originally, a father of 8, I have read.
Yes.
That's a record for the Brussels Signal studio. And, well, we have a number of questions here on you, on Germany, and on the European Union. I would like to start with the news, please, if possible. We have been following here on the Brussels Signal website news reports of attacks on AfD members in Germany. There is Andreas Jurka in August was badly beaten. We saw photos of his swollen face on the internet. Since then, Alice Weidel, who is the leader of the AfD in the German Federal Parliament, was taken into state protection after the discovery of an assassination attempt or a kidnapping attempt against her. And then also Tino Trupala, is that how you pronounce it?
Oh.
There was a reported assassination attempt. Can you tell us what is the state to start with? Is Miss Weidel now out of state protection?
Yes, Miss Weidel got the warning that she should stay away from her home and not having public meetings. So she used it and leave the country for some days to Mallorca, which is the easiest form of being attacked. With Mr. Krupala, it was much harder. So he had a public speech in Ingolstadt in Bavaria, and there was a spike attack.
Right, some kind of needle puncture?
Yes, there was some kind of needle, which is now assured by the doctors, and they had to be in hospital for 5 days.
Right.
And the interesting fact is not just that he got attacked. So you can say when you're a politician, you have to be aware that something can happen. But interesting enough that the mainstream media denied it. So they said, maybe it's a fake, maybe it was a bee. And yesterday the doctors released, and now we know that there was a spike. But even today, some left-wing media says, okay, maybe there was a spike, but we don't have found which was the poison. So now the police is making the screening, which certain poison it was.
Right.
But that takes some time because, you have a variety of possible poison.
So we don't know yet if there was poison.
We don't know which poison, but we know that there was a spike here, and we know that he had to be in hospital for 5 days.
Right.
Including 2 days on intensive care.
But he's now, I've seen photos of him today back in public, so I presume he has recovered.
30 minutes ago we had a phone call with each other. So he is back.
He's back.
But still, he describes himself as being now on 80% of his power from before. So we think he will be fine, and
he will recover fully, you believe.
Yes.
And you just said that Miss Weidel
is
back and still under state protection or not?
From what I heard, she is now working, but of course police has now adopted to the new situation. Right. So she has more protection than she used to have.
Okay. Are you afraid for your life, Mr. Krah?
Not really, but my friends tell me that this is not very reasonable, that I'm not afraid on that. And at least I now have a meeting with my regional police authorities because they are afraid. And probably I will also get now a special personal protection. I still enjoy the freedom to do what I want. But, this is always a risk. And I'm at least aware that I act with some fun to have a risky life.
So you're saying you haven't had any special protection until now, but probably now. I know you're going back to Germany tomorrow.
Especially when what we call the hot phase, yes, so the end of the election campaign. So when everyone in Germany sees my picture smiling from the next tree, then it could be a good idea to give me a bodyguard. Until now, I'm lucky enough not to have it, although I realize that people talk, are you Mr. Krah, and let's have a selfie, etc., etc. And you know, when you have 99 of those contacts which are pleasant, sooner or later the one unpleasant will follow. And now the question is how long we can manage it, and when it's necessary that there is a policeman around me. And this is now we try to fix out
some kind of security assessment, basically.
Yes.
Okay. Now, I want to go on to ask you to define some of your positions, please. Here on the Brussels Signal, we've settled on terms: hard right, hard left. Now, is it true that, for example, you were on the right wing of your own party? I know there are different views within the AfD. How would you describe yourself?
This is very difficult because what is right, what is left? Yeah? Take an example. I'm in favor of a diplomatic solution and a ceasefire in the Ukraine.
Okay.
Is it right wing to be pro-peace?
Okay.
This is hard to define. The next issue, I say that we need some kind of European policy. We need a kind of European institutions. There are things in the world of today and more in the world of tomorrow where European nations have to work together. So I'm not in favor of a complete renationalization of European politics. Is that right wing or is that not right wing?
Fair point. It could be both, I guess.
Yes, and oddly enough, within our party, those who claim themselves to be the more liberal part of the party, they are more nationalist than I am. They are more pro-war than I am. So you see, there are no clear categories anymore.
Okay.
So to explain what I am, I wrote a book in German. It's called Politics from the Right Side. So we will have now a French translation is already ready. A Spanish translation is underway. And we will see an English translation before the election. Just to make clear, what do I want and why do I want it? I would say, yes, I'm a right-winger.
Okay.
Because, I mean, do you really want to be a centrist? And the next word which is usually used is conservative. But I mean, conservatives, in fact, are mostly losers.
You've just said that you are pro-peace as far as Ukraine is concerned. Is that your party's position or is that your position?
That is the party's position.
That's the party's position. And what about as far as President Putin is concerned? What do you think to him?
No, I don't want to have him as the president or the chancellor of Germany, but I think it's the Russians have to choose. And I'm not a Russian. So one of my principles is that I say the Russians shall govern Russian, the Chinese shall run China, the Indians shall run India, and I accept how they run their countries. And then I look whether there is a possibility to find a mutual interest. So look, the majority of my colleagues in the parliament is always lecturing foreign ambassadors and foreign politicians on how to run their countries. So we have European politicians who are not able to run their own country, as you see in the data. But all of my colleagues who are not able to run their own country very well know how to run foreign countries.
Okay.
I'm completely not in the business of running foreign countries, but I look how foreign countries are run, where are the mutual interests, what can we do to have a joint benefit from trade, from negotiations, from cooperation in certain fields. Okay. And that is my approach.
Okay, understood. So as far as Russia is concerned, that's an issue for the Russians, basically.
Yeah, if they tomorrow want the Tsar back, then and the Tsar is making a conference in Moscow on German-Russian relationship, then I would probably go there and look what they can offer, right?
Right, and I presume the same goes for China then?
The same.
If
tomorrow they have a revolution, they have a resolution.
What about NATO?
The NATO at the current point there's no alternative for NATO now, right? So the European armies are not able to defend Europe themselves. But we have we have a challenge. The challenge is that America is changing tremendously. The United States of 1945 was a ethnic European country. The America of 2045 is a majorly non-European country. The future of America is Kamala Harris. They don't focus on Europe. So we have to realize that America is changing, and we cannot rely our security and our global policy on a country that is moving away from Europe. So many of my conservative friends, they still believe that America is Ronald Reagan. It is not. America is Kamala Harris.
So that means you think Europe should be responsible?
Yeah, Europe should take a more holistic approach and say we do it on our own. What is not the case today. So, but we have let's plan 10 years ahead. I would prefer that Europe develops structures that it is able to defend themselves and is not dependent from American force and American forces.
Okay. Now, you've already made one or two comments which make me think that you're in some ways not necessarily pro-European, but a pragmatic European. I mean, some of your colleagues, I have here a quote from Mr. Bjorn Hocker, who said,
yes,
this EU must die so that Europe can live. Is that something, an opinion that you share?
I mean, Mr. Hocker is, as a fan, very strong of words, yes? But there is one thing you can notice with this quote. He says, the EU must die that the true Europe can live. He doesn't say that the true Germany can live. So he also has Europe
a European
in that
vision.
This is, in our party, that the majority, I mean, Höcke is considered to be the right wing of the party. He also has an idea for Europe. So what is the true Europe? And that is what we say. We believe that the world of the future is a multipolar world. So the trend we see today is the awakening of the global south. And in the multipolar world, Europe must be a pole because the nation states are too small to deal on the same level with India, with China, with Brazil, with Africa. And the basic idea is that Europe should be internally as liberal as possible, as every country should do what it wants internally, but to the outside, as united as necessary.
So you're not anti-EU in principle, then? You're not in favor? No.
That's what I say.
Yeah.
So, and that is a speciality. If you look within our party, then those who consider themselves to be more liberal than I am, they would be more outspoken anti-EU. I, who is considered a more identitarian right, I'm not that much anti-EU.
Okay. I'm going to speed on and jump between subjects because I want to get everything done. Now, let's talk maybe about Israel and the Hamas war.
Yes.
What is your position there, please?
First of all, I indeed have very personal relations to Israel. So I'm probably the only right-winger in Brussels who ever got a real anti-Semitic smear campaign against himself, calling me a Mossad agent. You will find it in the old dark archives of the internet. It was called the Krah-gate.
When was
ridiculous. It was in 2010 or 11.
Okay.
So I have a lot of sympathy, but now we are in war. And in war, it's not the question on sympathy, and we should not mingle politics with moral or with personal sympathy. We should look on the facts. And the first thing is, of course, we stand clear to the self-defense and the right of existence of the State of Israel. But on the other hand, we now see the big and real danger that conflict is spreading around, and that it unites the Islamic world against Europe. So our position is we want to have a containment on that conflict. The conflict must not spread out. So it's important to keep Turkey and Saudi Arabia on board to find a quick solution. Because if the Turks and the Saudis turn against Israel together with the Iranians, then we have a united Islamic world against the West. That would be a disaster. That would be an asymmetric global war where the terror would come back and the tensions would come back. So the position of me and my party boss, and that's why we had a phone call half an hour before, We want to have the containment of the conflict, and we want to have the integration of the regional powers, Saudi Arabia and Turkey especially, into the solution for the conflict.
And you're in favor of, therefore, a two-state solution for...
I don't think that's very realistic, right? The truth is Israel runs that area, but it has to guarantee conditions of living for the Arab population in their autonomous regions, that they have a decent life. So I'm very much sympathetic for Israel, but the life conditions in Gaza are horrible. And now the people in Gaza fear that because of the deal between Saudi Arabia and Israel, they are completely lost. And that makes them open for the radical and extremist messages of Hamas. So every solution must include a solution that the life of the people, the Arab population, gets better, that the living standards can increase.
Okay. I want to move on to the European Parliament now,
Yes.
please. Your party, the AfD, sits within the ID group,
Yes.
the Independence and Democracy group. Is there any cooperation on the right? I'm talking about the ECR group in particular. How do they view you? How do you view them? If you work together, according to the maths, you'd be a big group in the European Parliament.
First of all, that is a good dream. We indeed have a problem, and this is foreign policy. You can say you have two approaches to be right-wing. You can say we are pure, the complete renationalization, so no Europe at all, first thing, and becoming a 100% ally or vassal, whatever you want, to the United States. Or you say, no, we have this more holistic approach and say we have a Europe and there's a multipolar world, and Europe is having trade relations and political relations to the east and to the west. And we have some very outspoken proponents of this complete nationalization and pro-US way in the ECR.
Okay.
They're more
pro-US than you are.
Yes, and they are pro-war in Ukraine. They follow a politics which I would call a neocon, according to US.
Right.
That is a little bit a problem. So I don't think that under current circumstances with so many international conflicts, it's very realistic that we have the big group. So I'm in favor of what I call the ID+. So we take the current ID and we take new parties that will join the European Parliament by 2024. We include them and we grow.
Okay.
Nonetheless, I of course have very good relationship to some of the ECR delegations and to some of the members there. So we cooperate, we talk to each other. There is a cooperation. So I will not give it up that we can create a supergroup. But this is not likely. And politics should always deal with what is real, with what you can achieve. And that is ID+.
The art of the possible, as they say. Okay, now what went on with, you were briefly expelled from the ID group and now you've been re-admitted. Can you explain what happened there?
Oh, this is the problem.
This was some kind of allegation of fraud over a tender? What?
There were many allegations. The problem is that the AfD is a young party. It was founded in 2013. And if you have young parties, then the hierarchy is not clear. And unfortunately, I had a little bit a clash with one of my fellow AfD MEPs, and he had a vendetta against me. So he created some allegations, and including a complete nonsense and ridiculous fraud allegation that I had manipulated a tender, which I have not done. And then the group said, until as long as there is an investigation, we suspend you. That means I'm a member, I'm in all my committees, but I was liberated from the duty to come to the group meetings.
Right.
That's over. It was politically intended by one of my opponents.
Who?
But since
will you name him or her?
Mr. Fest, you wrote it, so I don't tell you a secret. But since the party assembly made me the #1 candidate for the upcoming European elections, of course, it was over.
So that's over. You're now a full member.
Yes.
You've been in the news as well recently over one of your assistants. There have been allegations, which we have reported on as well, that this assistant of yours has inappropriate or suspicious connections with China. What's behind those? Is this part of the same vendetta, or is this something different?
I don't know. It comes from the same region of politics. My assistant is a born Chinese. Then he studied in Germany. He became a German citizen, not a double citizen, a German citizen. And I knew him before I entered politics because he was an entrepreneur, export-import, and he was a client of my law firm. And when I entered the Committee for International Trade, of course, this is the ideal staffer because he knows trade from a practical side, not just from a theoretical side. He speaks many languages, including Chinese. So he's a real asset. And now I have an assistant in a right-wing party who looks Chinese and obviously can easily communicate with the Chinese. But once again, that's everything. So I don't use the word racist because usually it's used as a left-wing accusation for nothing. But what I have read about my assistant, who once again is a German citizen, that indeed I would call racist. That it is racist attacks and racist slander. My assistant, before he worked for me, was close to the Chinese opposition in Germany. There are pictures of him together with the Dalai Lama. And now he is considered to be close to the Chinese authorities. I have no doubt on his integrity, and everything I read is complete nonsense. Yeah? So this is also a little bit, they fabricated accusations without any substance.
Okay, so is he close to the Chinese authorities, or I presume he has contacts?
No, the only thing is the official to the China mission here. But I mean, who is the biggest trade partner of the European Union? Who is the biggest trade partner of Germany?
Right.
It is China.
Right.
And it is definitely for me a competitive advantage that when I have questions on trade relations, I don't need an interpreter. So we can call directly. That's a clear advantage. And he is now, of course, he's doing my relations with the trade attaché, and that's it. But he has no otherwise contacts, at least not that I know about, and he's very honest to me.
Okay.
Insofar, that's not the point. But indeed, what I ask him as a favor is to stop his contacts to the opposition groups, because once again, I'm not in Chinese interior politics. I'm not in Russian interior politics. I'm not in Arabian interior politics.
Okay.
I'm in German and European trade politics.
Right.
And so I said, okay, you're very welcome. I very much appreciate your ability and your competence, but please, I don't want to have any interference in internal. And he said, it's fine. I'm out.
So you're saying that he maintains relationships with the Chinese authorities as part of your work, but you've asked him not to have any contact with the opposition parties.
Or with other Chinese actors. This is not in my interest. So
okay.
we do trade from the European perspective, and we use the opportunities there are because he has a Chinese background.
Right.
That's it.
That's it. I have a few more subjects here. I want to ask you what your views are on the migration pact, please. It's one of the big pieces of legislation going through.
If we don't stop migration, everything else is done. Because then here there is no Europe anymore. There is a German, can say a proverb, if you allow half of Calcutta to immigrate, you don't save Calcutta, but you become a second Calcutta. You can play this with Africa, then it's more obvious. So we have to stop it. We have to stop it immediately, and we have to talk about remigration, because there's so many people here that will not succeed, that will never integrate, that are just here taking welfare and becoming radicals. So migration is the key, and there's no reason to let every year 100,000 of migrants into Europe. Stop it, and the compact on migration is the wrong approach. They don't want stop migration. They want to make a better administrated migration. They believe in migration. Migration is a belief, as a religion for them, because they hate Europe as a culturally European place on earth. They want to mix everything. They love everything, as they call it, diverse and colorful. And I don't like that. I think that Europe should remain the home of the Europeans, formed by European people, European culture, European languages.
Right.
And Africa, the same for Africans, etc.
Now, you say stop it. Does that mean, how can you do that? Does that mean a naval blockade?
For instance, make a naval blockade, make drones, just let the Navy, the military, and the police do their job. And let Frontex push back. You can't protect the border without pushbacks. Do a pushback and then make a no-way campaign like the Australians did. You will never make Europe your home if you try to come without having a visa before. That's it.
And you also mentioned the term you used, was it remigration? That means sending people back. What does that mean?
Sending people back, and don't do that by force, but do it by incentives. I believe that incentives matter. Look, when you're a migrant in Germany, then they give you a welfare that is much higher than you could earn with a decent job in your home country when you are from Africa or the Middle East. People come to Germany not because of the nice weather. They come to Germany because of money for nothing. Stop the money, but give them money if they go back and do something. You could immediately take Syria, we have many Syrians in Germany. You could immediately close a deal with Syria on investment protection. So German companies could invest in Syria, protect it, and you could allow them to bring their profits back with a tax privilege. And then ask the Syrians in Germany, do you want to work for German companies in your home country for a decent local wage? And I guarantee that the majority would love to go back, coming back as winners from being in Germany for 5 or 10 years, working for German companies, making their fortune in their home. But the politics is not allowing them to go back to Syria because they still, yes, they have their tensions with the Assad regime. They don't spend money, and they've
been granted asylum, maybe.
Yes, and they prefer to keep them in Germany, where they will never become happy, and they will never become make their fortune.
But you're not in favour of forced repatriation?
Of course not. It's impossible. And that is impossible. You can do that for some exemptions, for exceptions for criminals, etc., etc. But we don't have the police, we don't have the military, we don't have the public who would accept that. We talk about the right incentives. Look, there is almost everything economists discuss about, but there is one famous sentence everyone agrees: incentives matter. Now we have incentives to come to Europe and not to work here. Make incentives to go home and work and make your home a better place.
I want to talk briefly about Germany, please.
Yes.
We've had elections in Hesse and Bavaria. The AfD have done well.
Quite well, yes.
So are we seeing now the growth of the AfD in Western Germany as well as Eastern Germany? What is your assessment of what's happening?
Yeah, that's what we now have. The East, politically speaking, is 5 years ahead. So we now reach the West, being second strongest party in West Germany, according to polls, now according to election results, and being strongest party in East Germany. The process will continue. Why? Because all the major issues we address, the government and the Christian Democrats cannot change their policies because they are so much committed to the wrong policies they follow that if they would change, it would not help them. So I don't see that the government and the Christian Democrats are willing to have a correction on their wrong policies on climate and then, of course, economy, on gender and the cultural war, on immigration and on foreign policy. So they will continue to follow the wrong path. We are the only alternative, so we will continue to increase. And I think Germany-wide we are now a little bit above 20%, 4 to 5% ahead of the governing party, the Socialists.
How high do you think you can go?
Realistic best case is the end of this year 25%. Realistic case for 2024 between 25 and 30.
Is it true that members of your party are under surveillance by
Yes,
the
probably
German?
me either. Me as well. Probably me as well. The German domestic intelligence is very unique for the Western world because it is not only looking whether we want to do some criminal acts. They make a kind of a check of our ideology, and then they say this ideology we like it or we don't like it, and they don't like ours. So probably I'm also under surveillance, and so if you send me text messages with pictures that your wife shouldn't see, then don't do that.
Final question. We're at 30 minutes already. Your predictions, I asked everyone who comes to the Brussels Signal studio, your predictions for the European Union elections. What are we going to see afterwards, do you think, in terms of the blocs, the left and the right?
I would say we have the realistic chance that we get a majority right of the Renew. That means that EPP, ECR, ID, and some well-minded non-attached could reach a majority. But once again, that does not mean anything because the EPP is not a conservative right-wing, call it what you want, bloc. So they might hold some conservative views when it comes to, I don't know, gender issues or cultural issues, but not even there. So sometimes I listen plenary debates on LGBTQI, and you don't listen, and you don't have one difference between the Greens and the EPP. But when it comes to some fiscal discipline, etc., then probably we will have a majority together with the EPP. So having a majority right of Renew, EPP, ECR, and ID does not mean that we will now have another policy, but it means that sometimes we have a swing. The EPP is a swing party. So we will see some changes to the better, but not to the good. The EU needs a fundamental change. This is, by the way, something we agree with the left. The left have the Conference for the Future of Europe.
Right.
The proposals they have there are dystopia. And the right is now asked to have their own idea for the future of Europe. And we should go and present an idea for the future of Europe and not say the idea of the future of Europe is the past. We need a positive vision for the future of Europe. This is something we have to deliver. This is something I want to help that we can deliver it. And until we have it, we will see, yes, more of the same, maybe a little bit better, but not good at all. It remains, the EU remains a bureaucratic monster full of left-wing ideology, but we need a better Europe. That must be the message.
Mr. Krah, thank you for coming in.
No, it was a pleasure.